so
dear.
This is a first. No pressure. He will tell you a little bit about himself. This is my husband, Randy Evans, and we've been married 47 years. So I'm thrilled that he could come and speak. And I'm going to close these doors off to help with sound. And but he's got a loud voice, so I think he'll be fine. Not at it. I'm going to close.
Oh, please. Please. You make it hard to be humble. Well, ladies, it is wonderful to be here. And gosh, I guess I didn't realize I was your first male speaker. And it's interesting as I looked out at you and as I walked in, I realized I know a number of you from different places here. I know Olga and Chrissy and Bernadette from Helping Hands, the food distribution. I drove many times on the truck with Chrissy's late husband, Bill, wonderful guy. And then there's a couple of you that I've known from the old days at Countryside Christian. That's, of course, Donna. I've known Donna for years. And then Kathy back there. I was her boys' oldest sons. I was the youth pastor for them. I've known Abby for a gazillion years. She's very good friends with Becky. And now from the new incarnation, in the sense of Countryside, I know Darlene, and I know Rebecca, and maybe that's it. And I met Mary Ann a little while ago, and I'll mention that later on. So anyway, so it's nice to be here, and I know you got some kind of warning, or I'm not sure to say what, message about what I was talking about, and I'm not talking about that at all. So I'll probably mention something, about it. But anyway, I think what I want to share with you tonight, I think is going to be inspiring, hopefully, as well as somewhat practical as well. You want me to talk louder?
Yes.
Wow. Okay. See what I can do. Anyway, if you haven't noticed, we live in a throwaway, society. How many of you remember having a TV repairman come to the house, or going to taking your TV to the TV repair shop? But nowadays, broken TV, you throw it away. Broken clock, where's the clock repair shops today? Throw it away, get a new one. Break a heel on your high heels, no need to go to a shoe repair store if you can even find one. Throw it away, go to TJ Maxx and get a new pair. Want an updated computer? Throw the old one away and go get another one. Unhappy with what your pastor said one Sunday? Instead of working it out, bye-bye, new church. Whatever you want. And I get it. It's the world that we live in. I wish it wasn't that way. I wish we didn't have to fill our landfills with all of this stuff that's not going to decompose. I don't know what they're doing with all of it. But I'm not talking about that sort of stuff today. What I want to talk to you about is that there are some things that we do need to throw away. And the sooner we do, the better. And tonight I'm going to share with you 8 things that we need to throw away. Get them out of your lives as quickly as possible. Now, I turned 70 just a couple weeks ago. And I'm not going to ask how many of you are near that age or even older, if not that. But if you've made it to 70, such as I've done, you've already outlived millions of people who never got the chance to experience what you have. We've seen the world shift in ways that younger generations cannot even begin to understand. If any of you have grandkids and we start talking to them about those days, they just say, you got to be kidding me, you did that, or whatever. We've lived through wars, political changes, revolutions, Y2K, remember that? 9/11, COVID, technological advances far beyond what we've ever imagined. Tropicana Field lost its roof. I'll say more about that. Economic crashes and personal transformations. You've walked through pain, lost loved ones, experienced success as well as failure, and yet you're still here. And that should mean something. But if you really truly want to live the rest of your years in peace and fulfillment and contentment, then you need to understand this. Not everything is worth carrying forward. Not everything belongs in the next chapter of your life. Some things, beliefs, habits, people, possessions, and even ways of thinking are actually holding you and I back from experiencing the joy and the freedom and the ease that you deserve. The biggest mistake people make as they age is believing that the accumulation of things leads to happiness. That the more they have, the better their life can be. My favorite movie of all time is back from the late, somewhere in the 1930s, Orson Welles' Citizen Kane. If you haven't seen it, it's just absolutely one of the most amazing movies ever made. He directed it, starred in it, wrote it, everything. And he was playing Charles Foster Kane, who was kind of like Randolph Hearst, the big newspaper guy. And actually Randolph Hearst tried to sue him so the movie wouldn't go out because it was like too much of him. In any event, became incredibly, rich. And one day he sent one of his workers, whatever, out. He sent him to Europe because he wanted to find a particular painting, famous painting. So the guy said, okay, traveled all over Europe, going to museums, talking to art people, whatever it is, couldn't find it. Finally comes back and says to, and Orson Welles, Kane says, so did you find it? And he says, well, actually, sir, you already own it. And it's in your warehouse. He had a giant warehouse with boxes and boxes and crates of things that he owned that he never even knew that he had. And did it bring him happiness? Well, if you know the movie, gotta watch it sometime. You realize Citizen Kane. And Kane is Kane. So, anyway, but the idea of accumulating things make you happy is just an illusion. The truth is, happiness is not about what you add, it's actually about what you subtract. The most content people in their later years are not the ones who are holding on to everything, but rather they are the ones who have learned to let go. They have freed themselves from the weight of things, of people, and thoughts that are no longer healthy for them to hold on to. So this evening I'm going to share with you, which won't take long, 8 things that we must immediately throw away to create a life of peace, wisdom, and true happiness. And at the very end, Becky made a sheet that she'll hand out to you that will list those 8 things, okay? The first thing that you must throw away is the belief that you have nothing left to learn. We all know folks who think they're know-it-alls, but I'm not talking about them. Too many people reach a certain age and decide that their learning is over because since they've already lived 60, 70, 80 decades, no, not that many, 6 or 7 or 8 decades, they believe they already know everything that they need to know. But that is a mental trap that leads to stagnation, bitterness, and isolation. The moment you believe you have nothing left to learn is the moment you stop growing. And the moment you stop growing is when you start fading. The happiest, sharpest, and most respected people are not the ones who close themselves off from new ideas, but rather they're the ones who remain curious, open, and willing to challenge their own thoughts, even if they're old beliefs. They read, they engage in new conversations, they explore, they ask questions, and they continue to expand their minds. A person who stops learning is a person, I hate to say it, who starts dying. Yeah. Now, I have a bachelor's degree in psychology and a master's degree in gerontology, old age. And then after 7 years as a gerontologist in the local mental health center, I went on staff at a large church, countryside in town, many years ago, where I met, again, a number of you. I became the high school youth pastor. I taught in the church's Bible college, and I was licensed and ordained as a minister with the other pastors there. And then after 7 years, started my own church for 28 years with Becky as the church administrator. I was basically self-taught in the area of religion, theology, whatnot. But in the year 2005, when I was 50 years old, after the church was already 11 years old, I decided to take some seminary classes at the Reformed Theological Seminary in Orlando. So I took one here and one there. I traveled out there, 1 or 2 times a week. And as I continued to do that, I was enjoying because I just wanted to learn. And one day I was walking on campus and the registrar walks up to me and says, "Hey, Randy, it's time for you to declare." And I go, "What? What are you talking about?" And he goes, "You already have 16, 18 credits. You're halfway, a third of the way there, whatever. So declare, what do you want to do?" I said, "Gee, I never even thought about it. I was just happy taking classes." So in 5 years, when I was 54, 55 years old, I graduated with my Master's of Theological Studies. Now, I was already a licensed and ordained minister. I didn't need to go to seminary, but I chose to do so. I wanted to keep on learning. It didn't make me any more special. Sometimes people would say to me as they shook my hand, "Hey, where'd you go to seminary?" And in the early days, I'd say, "I didn't," whatever. But now I could say it, but I didn't do it for that. I just wanted to keep learning. And now that I've retired from the pastorate, I do have a little YouTube page of my own where I teach a church history class from my office at home. But I am a Tampa Bay Rays fan host. And tomorrow's opening day for us. I will be there, out in the hot sun over in Tampa at Steinbrenner, Field. But I also have a little part-time job that I just came from at Robert's Christmas Wonderland. I just wanted to work and be with people. And the thing is, I've learned things. I now can basically repair a Christmas tree. That's good. Now, please don't call me and say, "Come on over, look at my tree." I mean, if you really need it, I will do my best to help you out there. But I'm learning and doing things that I've never done before. So throw away that lie that you're too old to learn anything new. Sign up for an art class. Learn how to do stained glass. Learn a musical instrument. Take a class at St. Pete College. Learn a new skill. Whatever comes to your mind, just open your mind to the possibility. Now, someone might say, "Well, if I did that, or if I went to school, back to college or whatever, it'd take me 4 years to do that, or it'd take me forever." And my comment to you is, how old will you be 4 years from now if you didn't go to school? Let's just use that as an example. And they say, "Well, I'll be such and such year old." And I said, "How old will you be in 4 years after you go to school?" Well, you're going to be the same age. So you got to get those 4 years anyway. Why not learn a new skill? Why not learn, something new? Okay, so that's the first thing. The second thing you must throw away, and you know what? As a preacher, former preacher, whatever, I know this tendency is to me just talk. So don't hesitate if I'm making a point. Say, oh, I got an example of that, or whatever, okay? But you can't talk long. The second thing you must throw away, and this might hurt, is toxic relationships. And I'm not just talking about acquaintances. I mean anyone in your life, even bitter and toxic family members who consistently drain your energy, disrespect your boundaries, or bring unnecessary negativity into your world. By the time you reach, let's just say 70, your time becomes your most precious asset. Every moment you spend with people who do not value you, who only take from you, and who make you feel small, is a moment stolen from your happiness and peace. If someone does not add peace and joy or meaning to your life, then cut them off without guilt. You do not owe owe your time or energy to anyone who does not treat you with love and respect. Now, don't misunderstand that second point. I'm not saying to completely disregard family or your next door neighbor who is rather toxic. But rather, in those cases, what you need to do is to set boundaries. Limit your time with them and lovingly but firmly say no to unreasonable demands, and excuse yourself when the toxicity is poisoning you. It's going to drain and suck the life out of you. And even as I've made that point, some of you already are thinking of people that you care about that are draining the life out of you. Love them, pray for them, help them, but set some boundaries. Your life is too valuable to be sucked dry by something like that. All right, the third thing you must remove from your life is one that I have to personally work on. We must remove unnecessary clutter. Physical, emotional, and mental clutter. Look around your home. How many things do you own that you haven't used in years? How many items sit in your closet, in your garage, in your drawers, doing nothing but taking up space and collecting dust? How many of you have a number of junk drawers at home? I have more junk drawers than drawers that are useful for something. People give me knickknacks, people go on a mission trip and give me something. I take that very personal and I put it on my bookcase. I have more Tampa Bay Rays memorabilia, not because I work for them now, but as a pastor, everyone in the church knew how much I loved the Rays. So what would happen? They'd go to a game, get a bobblehead, give it to me. My office is full of these things, and I like it. It's cute, whatever. I'm going, what am I doing with all these things? Every unnecessary possession you hold on to is a psychological burden. It creates stress, even if you don't realize it. Now, Marianne, who's sitting here, who's a part of this group, she had Steve, Donna's husband, and myself go into her late husband's tool shed and clean it out. Many of the tools were donated to a thrift store that raises money for a drug rehab facility. Oh, you're already leaving? Oh, it's my wife. No. But donated those things to a thrift store that are raising money for a drug rehab. Now, I'm sure it was hard for Marianne to let some of those things go because they were connected to her late husband. But she's pressed on, and others have been blessed because of her decision to clean house. Now, that doesn't mean that she doesn't love her husband, or if you give away things and you don't love your spouse, sure, keep something or some things that are a special value, whatever. But Becky has told me a number of times that if I pass away first, maybe after a couple of days, she's jettisoned all that stuff out of there. You wouldn't believe the stuff that I have. I have thousands of CDs and thousands of vinyl records, and I listen to them all. But she says it's out the door. And you know what? Have yourself a garage sale. Donate the money that you've earned, or take a cruise. Just set yourself free from the bondage of stuff. And the same goes for emotional clutter. The regrets, grudges, unspoken words that have weighed heavily on your heart, as well as holding on to old pain, will not change your past, but rather it will poison your present and future. You have no idea who I'm talking about, but I work with someone at the Christmas store who was just telling me today that she hasn't spoken to her father since Thanksgiving. And I go, oh, and so, and the store wasn't busy, so we talked about it. And she says, I know. And I said, I'll just be honest with you. This is going to hurt you more than it's probably hurting him. I know. But she's holding on to this grudge that's going to eat her alive. Now, he's toxic, but she needs to set boundaries, with them so she can at least have a relationship, with them. And so there's things that we've said or didn't say, whatever it is, holding on that old pain is not going to change the past. So let go what does not serve, bless, or enable you to grow. Again, as I said, donate what you don't need. Forgive what you can't change. And clear the space in your life so that you can finally breathe. The fourth thing to let go of is the fear of aging itself. One of the biggest lies we've been told is that aging is something to fear. Do everything you can from getting older. There's nothing you can do to stop. Well, there's one thing you can do to stop getting older.
Yeah.
You know what the answer is to that? Is that it's not something that we need to fear. That getting older is a decline, a loss, a fading into irrelevance. But that is not true. Aging is a privilege that many never receive. Every wrinkle, every gray hair, every laugh line is proof that you have lived, that you've experienced, that you've survived. The moment you stop fearing aging and start embracing it, you will find freedom, because aging is not the end or the enemy. It can be a new beginning. It is a time of wisdom, self-acceptance, and living on your own terms. Hey, what do they say now? Is that 70 is the new 50. Now that I'm 70, I say it's the new 45. So please keep that in mind. The fifth thing to remove from your life is the expectation, this is important, that others will or should make you happy. If you are waiting for your children, your grandchildren, your friends, a new love interest, your ball team, a politician or political party or society to bring you happiness, you will be greatly disappointed and you'll be waiting forever. The truth is, happiness is an inside job. It is something you create, not something you receive. As a matter of fact, I've used the word happy or happiness a couple of times already in this talk, and that isn't accurate. We shouldn't strive for happiness, even though our Constitution, or the Declaration of Independence, says that we are the pursuit of happiness. I get it, but that's not a very good word. We shouldn't be striving for happiness, but rather contentment. Happiness, this might be one of the most important things you can learn tonight, and I've been saying this for I don't know how many years. Happiness is based on happenings. It is situational. You can go to a funny movie and you laugh throughout it, and it ends with a happy ending. And maybe you smile and laugh about it and remember some of the jokes an hour later. But then you go back into the real world where there's trouble, maybe trouble and pain and heartache. Now you're no longer happy. Why? Because the situation has changed. The happening has changed. A better goal is contentment. One dictionary defines contentment as the state of being mentally and emotionally satisfied with things as they are. That doesn't mean we don't try to improve things, but to be content says, I'm okay. I've talked to people many times who hate their job. So now they're going to look for something else. And I say, that's fine. But before you go look for something else, you need to learn to be content. The Apostle Paul, I'm going to read that to you in a second. You need to learn to be content where you're at, because if you're grumpy and leave this because you hate this job and you go to another job, what's going to happen? If you're going to leave this grumpy boss and you don't resolve anything, what's going to happen? If you don't learn anything, your next job, you're going to run into the same thing again. Learn to be content, satisfied, while still being able to make those, changes in a sense. You may be sad that a loved one has passed away, but somehow learn to be content to know that they're safe with the Lord. The Apostle Paul said from prison, remember what I'm going to read to you, he wrote this in prison. I'm not saying, I have a piece of chocolate in my pocket that someone gave me at work today, and I just put my hand in my pocket, and guess what? It's melted. It's all over my fingers now. I don't care. See, I just tell you those things. That's just how I am. Anyway. Yeah, because I don't want to put it on the American flag. And you see what I did here? is that I made myself, this is a wooden box, a cardboard box I saw laying here, and I saw the American flag, and I didn't mean any disrespect, I just wanted to show you I'm proud to be an American, and came out, pretty good there. Anyway, the Apostle Paul said this from prison. I'm not saying this because I am in need, for I have learned to be content whatever the circumstances. I know what it is to be in need, and I know what it is to have plenty. See, he knew what it meant to struggle. He knew what it was to have plenty of money. I've learned the secret of being content in any and every situation, whether well-fed or hungry, whether living in plenty or in want. I can do all this through him who gives me strength. Now, he again was in prison. He wasn't happy that he was in prison. Oh, I'm sure he had happy times, like when other prisoners or guards came to faith, or when someone told a funny joke. But in the misery of being unjustly thrown in prison, he was at peace. He was content, and he was going to take advantage of his time there until it was time to be released. He knew that the Lord was with him and was in control. The happiest, the most content senior citizens or people are not the ones who are waiting to be invited, waiting to be appreciated, waiting for someone else to bring them joy. They create their own joy with a faith-filled and positive attitude. They explore new hobbies. They meet new people. They engage in things that excite them. They join a group with mostly strangers and make new friends, through it. Is that they take responsibility for their contentment and instead of outsourcing it to others. The sixth thing to throw away is the habit of comparing yourself to other people, especially in your case with women with spouses. Comparison is the root of all inferiority. Comparison is a dangerous trap. I don't know if any of you were brought up in a household where your mom or dad would say, oh, why can't you be as smart as your older sister or as pretty as your older, and then you start comparing them, it leads to inferiority. Too many older people waste their time wishing they could go back, feeling envious of younger generations or regretting that they can no longer do things they used to be able to do. This is a toxic mindset that only leads to frustration and sadness. The truth is, you are not supposed to be who you were at 30, 40, or 50. You're supposed to evolve. You have something that younger people do not have. You have experience, wisdom, perspective. Stop trying to compete with others, thinking things can never get better. Instead, embrace the power of where you are now. Be the best possible you, who you are today, not 40 years ago. The athlete, the guy who's walking, all he talks about is old, football stuff. He's missing life today. All he's doing is talking about that. When I get together with my high school buddies up north, we'll be going up in October for Becky's 50th reunion. I'll get together with my buddies, and you know what? They'll start talking the same old stories that we've talked about. And I want to say, it may not be constantly that, but I want to say, hey guys, what have we been doing for the last 52 years? Surely you've done something in your life in the last 52 years that we can talk about. Okay, the seventh thing to throw away is regret. We all have moments of life we wish we could change. See, it's nice to see you, Olga. Things that we could change. Things we should have done differently or could have done differently. Words we shouldn't have said. The words that we should have said. But living in regret is like carrying a heavy backpack that you never put down. It slows you down. It weighs on your heart. It robs you of your present. It kills your joy and steals your energy. The past cannot be changed. It can be resolved so you can move forward. The present can be lived fully. Stop replaying old mistakes. Forgive yourself, move forward. What's left is more important than what's behind. I'm not saying don't think about your loving husband or whatever. I'm not saying, well, you'll see in a second with the verse that I'm going to quote. But I speak from experience. My past has been forgiven, and now I choose not to live there. And as once again the Apostle Paul, who had Christians murdered and thrown in prison, so he had a lot on his mind, he said in Philippians 3:13 and 14, brothers and sisters, I do not consider myself yet to have taken hold of it, meaning his heavenly perfection in Christ. But one thing I do, forgetting what is behind and straining towards what is ahead, I press on toward the goal to win the prize which God has called me heavenward in Christ Jesus. Once again, that does not mean don't think about your spouse and your past. That's perfectly fine. We're talking about carrying the burden of things, mistakes, whatever you've done in the past, the regrets you might possibly, have. Finally, the eighth thing. And I thought when I said finally, everyone would say amen. Was that my wife that said that? Finally, the eighth thing to throw away is to believe that it's too late for you to start something new, to create a new experience, to change your mindset, to build something meaningful. This is similar to the first one. It is never too late to make your life better. People fall in love in their 70s. People write books in their 80s. People start businesses in their 90s. Did you know that Colonel Sanders started KFC at 65? Laura Ingalls Wilde began writing Little House on the Prairie at 65. Estelle Getty, who was that wisecracking older woman in the Golden Girls, is that she had little success in acting until she struck gold at 63. Grandma Moses started painting at 78. She had no natural ability to paint, but she just started painting at 78 and got so good and famous where she sold paintings for $1 million. Get this one. Yuichiro Murai, Japanese fellow, in 2014 climbed Mount Everest at 80 and got to the top. Ronald Reagan went into politics as governor of California at the age of 55 and became president at the age of 70 and finished at 78. The only thing standing between you and your best years is the belief that you've already lived them. If you woke up today, and I believe you all have, and I haven't noticed anyone falling off yet, that means you still have time to make your life extraordinary. So, let go. Let go of everything weighing you down. Let go of the belief that you can't learn anything new or worthwhile. Let go of toxic relationships. Throw away clutter, physical, emotional, and mental. Let go of the fear of aging. Throw away the belief that people, things, and situations will make you happy. Rest in the contentment of a satisfied heart. Throw away the tendency to compare yourself with others, whether they be younger or friends with spouses. Throw away any regret of your past. It's a new day. The Lord's mercies are new every morning. It tells us that in Lamentations. And throw away that belief that it's too late for you. Great days can be ahead of you, and it all depends on your mindset and your faith. In summary, get rid of anything that does not serve your contentment and peace. Because the truth is, this is your time. This is the chapter where you get to live freely on your own terms. I understand some of you, all of you, in one sense or another, are dealing with the loss of a loved one. I understand that. I'm not minimizing that at all. But I'm telling you right now, your spouse would not want you to sit in your home in the dark and say, poor me, I'm not allowed to enjoy my life. Is that he would want you to enjoy the rest of your life. So this is a chapter where you get to live freely on your own terms, and when you let go what no longer serves or benefits you, you will see life after losing your loved one isn't the end. It's really just the beginning. Now, questions, comments, thoughts, concerns? No one threw any... Yes?
Everything that you said is so thought-provoking, I think for many of us, but for me.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You're very welcome.
Thank you.
You're very welcome. Any other comments or anything? No? Well, Becky's handing out to you the sheet with those 8 points on there. So do what you want to do with them, but I just thought that might be encouraging. What's that? You use your voice?
I am Italian.
Thank you. Oh, you have extra.